I do not know who will win, but I know who will be sworn in. Those are the words of Moses Kuria, who is the cabinet secretary without portfolio. He tweeted this on the night of the 26th of August 2026. Welcome to Mwabili Mogodi TV. This is your Jomba. For countless of episodes, I have been saying here that President Ruto is planning to steal the 10th August 2027 general election. How he plans to steal this election, we are yet to find out. And from what former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua told Kenyans in a press conference on the 26th of August, should make each and every Kenyan worried. Listen to former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua.
You are aware that on 11th August 2026, tender reference number IBC/OIT/01/2026-2027 for the supply, delivery, installation, testing, commissioning, support and maintenance of the integrated elections management system, hardware, equipment and accessories was advertised and is to close on September 1st, 2026 at 10 a.m. You are all aware that Kenyans do not know is that the tender process and the result has already been preconceived and is awaiting rubber stamping to Miru, M-I-R-U, Systems Company Limited of South Korea. Mr. Chairman, it is within your knowledge and mischief that what is actually happening is a mundane public relations exercise to manage the other bidders and 55 million Kenyans. Mr. Chairman, you are aware that to facilitate this activity, IEBC commissioners fired the procurement manager in IEBC and installed a puppet to manage this tender. Mr. Chairman and your Vice Chairman, Fahima Arfat Abdallah, have been compromised as the drivers of this tender process against the concurrence and the wishes of the other commissioners. Mr. Chairman, this is not the first time I'm raising an alarm on your Vice Chairperson. You will recall that during the by-elections in Magarini last year, this same Vice Chairperson was largely involved in the malpractices, and I made the matter public. You did nothing about it. This confirms that she was holding your brief and that you are the appointing authority. Mr. Chairman, with your concurrence, the PS for Interior, Remo Domolo, the PS for Immigration and Citizen Affairs, Mr. Belio Kipsang, have held meetings with Miru Systems Company Limited of South Korea. They are in the process of giving to the company access to the country's voter registration database for integration purposes. But Kenyans are asking, who is Miru System Company Limited? This is a South Korean company with a very bad history of rigging elections across the world. Their global failures are well documented, having faced allegations of faulty technology in Argentina, Philippines, and the DRC, where they deployed their equipment and technology. In 2018, Miru Systems Company Limited supplied BVR kits to the Democratic Republic of Congo. Reports show that they delivered the election equipment 6 months late. Following the controversy, the South Korean government publicly distanced itself from this company. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, in 2023, election observers reported that up to 45% of polling stations experienced equipment malfunctions, and this potentially excluded 17 million Congolese from voting. Again in Congo, illegible voters' cards were used and actual voters were removed from the roll of voters. Following Congo's 2018 and 2023 polls, the U.S. Treasury Department placed election commissions, then President and two of his deputies under sanctions for undermining the democratic process of institutions. In 2024, in the Philippines, the mock elections conducted using Miru's technology encountered fatal flaws. Many organizations, especially human rights groups, rejected Miru's explanations, pointing to unresolved security and reliability issues. It is beyond discussions that Kenya would ever even imagine having such a vendor for our 2027 general elections. During the October 2024 parliamentary elections in Iraq's Kurdistan region, election monitors claimed that voting machines in up to 70 to 75% of stations malfunctioned by failing to properly record and transmit results. Iraq's Board of Supreme Audit raised red flags and warned the Election Commission about systems' credibility just days before the vote. Following the election, various political blocs in Iraq claimed the machines were hacked or manipulated, triggering widespread political tension and a mandated manual recount. The Miru plan in Kenya, as directed by William Ruto. Under the instructions of William Ruto, Meru Technologies has been instructed to prepare a new voters register and suppress voters from the following regions perceived to be against this regime. 1, Western Kenya; 2, Nyanza region, but in Kisii and Nyamira counties; 3, the Mount Kenya region; 4, Lower Eastern; 5, Nairobi; 6, Taveta and Namu; 5, Rift Valley in Nakuru, Laikipia, Kajiado, and Narok. We appeal to our development partners and embassies accredited to the Republic of Kenya to take note of this threat to Kenya's electoral democracy. The company should be banned and never allowed to manage any election or supply its equipment and technology to this country. I would like to challenge IEBC to confirm if the technical specifications in the tender have not been specifically crafted and tailor-made around the profile of Meru systems technology. The IEBC must tell Kenyans whether this procurement process is in line with provisions of Article 227 of the Constitution and Section 60 and 61 of the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act. Further, we are asking, what was and is the role of the Cabinet Secretary for Mining, Ali Joho, and Vice Chairman of IEBC Commissioner Fahima Arfat Abdallah in this tender process? Can IEBC produce documentary evidence showing who drafted the technical specifications for tender number IBC/OIT/01/26/27, including all internal committee meetings, technical working papers, market surveys, approval records, and explain why the specifications mirror the capabilities associated with a single supplier identified in the market, rather than being expressed as performance-based and vendor-neutral requirement. Before publishing the tender, what market analysis did IEBC undertake to establish the multiple qualified manufacturers or system integrators could realistically satisfy every mandatory technical requirement, and how many suppliers were identified as capable of meeting the specifications without requiring exceptions or waivers? How come and why did the IEBC formulate mandatory experience and qualification requirements that absolutely correspond with the operational history of Meru Technologies, instead of adopting proportionate, objective, and outcome-based eligibility criteria as required under the Procurement Act? And what technical justification exists for each restrictive qualification? What a clever coincidence, Mr. Ethicon. How come and why does the tender document contain numerous provisions requiring IEBC to insert, specify, or determine technical standards later, which stimulously imposing rigid mandatory requirements elsewhere? And how can bidders prepare comparable and responsive tenders where essential specifications remain undefined or internally contradictory? Why did the IEBC require a tender security of 30 million shillings while failing to disclose sufficient information regarding the quantities, commercial scope, estimated procurement value, or the budgetary basis necessary to demonstrate compliance with Section 61 of PPADA, and how are bidders expected to assess commercial risk under those circumstances. Finally, given that the Constitution requires procurement to be fair, equitable, transparent, competitive, and cost-effective, what safeguards did IEBC implement during the drafting stage to ensure that no manufacturer's proprietary, architecture, certification profile, or product ecosystem, including that associated with the Miru systems, was embedded into the mandatory specifications in a manner that excluded otherwise qualified competitors? Kenyans should also be made aware that William Ruto's captured parliament has deliberately delayed the passing of the Elections Amendment Bill 2024 that contains provisions that touch on technology. Specifically, the bill proposes that the supplier of KIMS technology must grant IEBC intellectual property rights and ownership over the system. Senate passed the bill, but it has been pending in the National Assembly. We all know why.
The thing with President Ruto is that he knows that come what may, he is not going to be re-elected back into office on 10th August 2027. That is a fact of reality that he has accepted. And that is why time and again, his stooges like Moses Kuria come out and threaten Kenyans that whatever you people do, whether you register as voters, whether you go to vote, whether you protect your votes at the polling station, whether you count, tally, verify, and announce the result at the polling station, President Ruto is still going to be president after 10th August 2027. Basically, ni kutisha tu wananchi ya kwamba tupende tusipende, whatever we do, Ruto will be re-elected into office. This will have been true in 2007, maybe 2002, 1997, 92, all the way back to independence days. But Kenyans have a secret weapon, and that weapon is the Constitution of Kenya 2010. This is the weapon that was fashioned against the incumbent President William Ruto. And believe it or not, Kenyans, we are going to prevail against this man on 10th August 2027. He can buy the IEBC. He can have the chairman doing his bidding. They can get a funny company from South Korea, the one that has been exposed by former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. But for as long as our voting is manual, the electronic theft does not really bother us too much, because the biggest problem is the result at the polling station. How they plan to deploy Miru Systems Limited from South Korea is a story for another day. Lakini sisi focus yetu ni kwa matokeo. And that is why you can see Moses Kuria anatumwa huku nje kutisha wananchi na wizi wa kura. Na at the same time, President Ruto is still working on a way to steal the election through, for example, the hiring of this incompetent firm, Miru Systems Limited from South Korea. Viewers of Mabili Magodi TV, I know it is depressing sometimes when you come across these stories. Unaanza kukufa moyo kwamba huyu mtu ataiba, he will just steal this election. Believe it or not, for as long as you are watching me and as long as we are engaging here on Mabili Magodi TV, I am here to guarantee you that President Ruto does not have the ability to steal our election. This is not Zambia, at where he is going to stop counting of votes in all polling stations around this republic. He does not have those kinds of powers. That South Korean firm, the much they can do maybe is to try and slow down voting by making sure the systems do not work. The voter register is mudded up, a lot of takataka nonsense ideas that President Ruto has. But the will of the people of the of the Republic of Kenya, I can guarantee you we shall prevail. The people shall prevail. President Ruto pahali anaenda, kama sio Sugoi ni Kamiti Maximum Prison. Continue the conversation in the comments kama kawaida, weka comments zako hapo. Tell me and viewers of Mobili Mogodi TV how you feel about the upcoming 2027 general election. Continue liking these videos. It is very important that you like the videos, my viewers, because inasaidia sana channel kugrow. And share this content with your friends and family around the world. Asanteni sana.